What is going on, everybody? This is the way we are talking The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2. Going to jump into some spoilers, but first we'll go on a non-spoiler recap in our opinions of this episode and where we think things are going for Mando and Baby Yoda, aka Grogu. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me today, as always, my right-hand man, Mr. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, the lettuce is looking good as always. How you doing tonight?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing great. I can't believe they were eating people. Oh, wait, no, this is the wrong Pedro Pascal show. Oh, week to week, I just keep getting them confused.
They did try to eat Pedro Pascal's character, but it just wasn't cannibalism, you know?
It
So
wasn't
it's
cannibalism, yeah.
more acceptable, but still bad.
It's not good.
So it's just not good. He's always in these situations, man. He can't catch a break. Oh my gosh. Cannibalism. I'm thinking about Kingsman now. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna chat about this episode here. I was just saying to John pre-show, hopefully you joined us at twitch.tv/the Geekiverse Live. We have a lot of Star Wars content going on, but I didn't realize how much I missed The Mandalorian. It's the tentpole Star Wars name, right? The sub franchise, the IP, whatever you want to call it right now. But to have this back, I didn't realize how much I missed it. Over the weekend, I had some time. I was watching my daughters and was able to kind of have background stuff on. And I binged season 1. It's not super long, so it could be done, but going through those episodes again, it's so good, man. And
It
there's
is.
some dips here and there, but it's mostly consistent.
Mando is a vibe. Like, they just, it's a good tone setter. Like, the music pops on. You know what you're getting into. You've got these, like, week to week shenanigans. Like, Mando is a vibe, for better or worse. Like, it is what it is, but, like, it's comfort food for Star Wars fans, I think, at this point.
Totally is. I think about season 1. And I think about the arc that it took and introducing us to these characters, including who eventually became Grogu. Uh, you've got Cara Dune, you've got Moff Gideon, Grief Karga, just some really good Star Wars names that are starting to hold some weight. You think about season 2, and it could have been a disaster with the format of the season, but it wasn't. It was, oh my gosh, which big Star Wars character is popping up this week? Whether you go down the line, you had Ahsoka, you had Boba Fett, you had Luke Skywalker. Are you kidding me? Just some incredible stuff. But season 3, we're off to a different vibe here. We are just going just a full deep dive into Mandalore, what happened with the Great Purge, not to be confused with the Great Jedi Purge, but also some of the lore that exists in the tribes on that planet and what the Empire really did. And we're starting to see some of that. So I think this is a fun storyline for this season, and I'm excited to get more of it. So, John, before we dive into spoiler territory, your thoughts on this episode?
It's just more Mando in the best way possible, right? We're getting nothing crazy here. We're not. You talked about season 2. You talk about some of those cameos, those big character reveals. None of that here. That's not the point of this episode. We're just continuing this story. We've got some fun stuff. We've got some fun character callbacks. We've got some cool things to appreciate for sure. Some really cool things to appreciate for Star Wars fans, honestly, especially for fans of the prequels. But it's just progressing that story. And like you said, we finally get down to Mandalore. We start to see how that plays out, and what's needed here. So yeah, I'm all in. I'm having a good time. I think it was a really good episode.
I agree. In the prequels, or more specifically, really the Clone Wars series, we visit Mandalore quite a bit. We get a lot of Bo-Katan. We see what happened there, or what was going to be happening as the Clone Wars went on, and the Republic, which was going to become the Empire, was really starting to take control. You get towards the end of season 7 there with the Clone Wars, and what really happens is tragic with that planet. But now we're seeing the aftermath of it. We're visiting it and taking that deep dive. And it's very sobering. And I thought that sobering is probably the best word to describe this episode. But you're right. It's more Mando. It's more Grogu. We're starting to get some babbling from him, almost some words, which is great.
I love to see the progression.
Yes. You forget that he really is a baby, even though he's now 53 years old, I believe, by the time the season hits. So there's a lot going on, and it's building off of what came before it, as opposed to kind of relying on, hey, here's a recognizable Star Wars character that you would like to see in this episode.
Real quick, was Duchess Satine Bo-Katan's sister?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. You talked about some of the Clone War stuff and some of the stuff that happened in Mandalore, and I started thinking Duchess Satine. I'm like, wait a minute, her last name was the same as yeah. Connecting dots here. Sorry.
No, it's all good, man. Yeah, I encourage you if you're enjoying Mandalorian right now. A lot of that lore stems from the Clone Wars, and of course, Dave Filoni also produced that. Him and George Lucas shared that love over that culture in Star Wars. So, we're gonna open it up here to spoilers. We don't have a terribly long episode here, but we'll go through some of my notes and observations here. Like I said, nothing too crazy. But if you haven't watched the episode yet, bookmark this, pause it, come back to it. You can watch it later at youtube.com/thegeekiverse or listen on podcast services wherever you may listen to podcasts. So early on, we get some more Pelimoto. This is the woman that he keeps coming back to on Tatooine. I think about her as almost like Brock and Sindri in the God of War games.
I was
played those.
Just gonna say it's like a video game character. Like she is like the shopkeeper of this world. You visit this area and she's the one you have to talk to. Like she's the first line of defense for this world. Yeah. But it feels video gamey, right? Like you talk to her first. Yeah.
You need your ship fixed or you need an upgrade, you go to her.
Right.
And I gotta say, when she debuted in what about in episode 5 or so in that first season when he visits Tatooine, some of the stuff that happens in that episode is cringeworthy. I thought her performance was fine, but I didn't think I was gonna love that character. I thought this was gonna be a one-off. This actress worked with Jon Favreau on many projects. You go all the way back to Elf, the movie Elf. She's in that. She's like the receptionist there, or the secretary.
Oh my God, I never knew that.
Yeah,
wow.
Crazy.
Memory
She's the one that
unlocked.
talks to Buddy the Elf when
he's sitting there visiting. Oh no.
She's like, "Yeah, sweet." That's her.
That's amazing.
Right. So she's kind of throughout that movie. She's in the boardroom towards the end. She's singing. It's all good. But yeah, I love that she's a recurring character on this now. You get her in season 2. You get her here, and she's just kind of like part of like the campy charm of Star Wars now.
She is, and like the very campy charm of Mandalorian, right? But
very much so.
I like how she's our touchstone to Tatooine. She is our, when you fast travel to Tatooine, you have to talk to her first.
It's a good reason to go back to Tatooine.
It is.
Why else would you? I love that R5D4. So the red astromech droid is now not just working at the cantina. He's here.
Yeah.
He works with Pelimoto in the crew of pit droids.
I think he was here before. I think we saw R5 here in season 1 actually.
He might have been in the backgrounds.
R5 was around. Yeah. But I'm glad he's got his motivator fixed.
Thank goodness. What would you even do? I love that they've given this character life. Later on in the episode, he basically becomes the astromech to navigate for Din and Grogu, and that's just sweet justice right there.
It is. It's awesome to see them, grab a character like that, a droid, and pull it back into the fold here. I love how they just abandoned this whole half of the first episode's point was to get IG-11 back up and running, and they're just like, it's not possible. Let's just go with this astromech who's afraid of everything and doesn't work very well. All right, let's do it.
I gotta think IG is being worked on still, right? Like I feel like he's coming back. Taika is gonna be voicing this character again.
I agree, but to see, just to see Din just give up on it so quickly, it was like, all right, whatever. That's what we do. We move on to mission.
Right, because he's got droid issues, droid trust issues. If you call back to the first season,
yeah.
So that's a thing. But don't you love, John, how they gave? You think about R2D2, his personality, like he just doesn't give an F. He's brave. He's in all these big battles with the rebellion. Poor R5. He's like a scaredy cat.
Afraid of everything.
Oh, I feel bad for him. He just needs a hug.
He's like a little just scared puppy.
I think we talked about it on air before, but if you call back to from a certain point of view, the book that came out on the 40th anniversary for A New Hope, it is chapter by chapter a different viewpoint from different side characters in the movie A New Hope. And R5 is one of them. And basically the story is that he blows that motivator so that R2D2 can go be with 3PO and get to the Skywalkers. Or Lars's, I should say. And it's funny because that's a brave moment for R5. On the flip side, is it a brave moment? Because now he doesn't have to be a part of these battles with the rebellion eventually. But here, I love that they just further, this is a throwaway character from the first movie that they've now given a personality to over the years. So good stuff.
So cool.
On Tatooine also, like I was confused at first what we were seeing. You hear like
Not me.
speeder bugs.
Not me. I knew right away, baby.
You're like, is it a pod race? You don't
Sure is.
totally see it. It is because it's
Boonta Eve. Let's go.
So what is Boonta Eve? I don't know, but it's a holiday. It's a holiday on Tatooine. So the Boonta Eve Classic is the name of the race from the Phantom Menace, in which Anakin Skywalker wins his freedom. It's the boba. He gets him, all of it. Boonta Eve. I love that they talk about this, and Pelimoto's like, cool. I have to work now.
Now I gotta work on a holiday. Yeah, she's like, yeah, go strip some speeders. It's all ripe for the picking. It's Boonta Eve. I love it. Just keep building this up. Like the stuff that us as kids love from these prequels. Like, what is Boonta Eve? I don't know. It's a holiday though. Double down. Let's make this a thing. Like keep reintroducing this stuff and making it cool.
I could not agree more. It fleshes out all of it in a meaningful way. And I gotta say, a lot of times you'll hear people complain about Star Wars retroactively adding details or talking about stuff. I just
if you have that complaint, Star Wars isn't for you. That is what this is all about. They give give us these large ideas in these galaxies. They throw stuff at the wall. They find cool ideas and they flesh it out. They just hop in there and they connect dots that certainly weren't there in the first place. We don't care. They're connected now. It's Star Wars. That's what it's all about. If you have a problem with that, you don't like Star Wars, it's fine.
I totally agree. And to me, I eat up every little bit of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a thing from this movie, or that was a thing from this book that maybe you didn't read. Like all of it is so awesome to me. And that's the beauty of Star Wars, because it has this connected canon that is controlled by a creative group. You don't get different versions of it. And like, I love Marvel to death, but I'm never going to read all the different comic book storylines or say like, hey, this is how it was done in this storyline versus the MCU versus this TV show. Like, this is it. This is one interconnected universe, and they've always done a good job of it, whether it was pre-Disney with just Lucasfilm Story Group or now.
Yeah, they would never put out a trilogy of movies without like an overarching theme and idea to, see its way through.
They would never do it.
They would never do it.
They would never, ever even consider it.
Couldn't be caught dead.
So... Mandalore. We go to Mandalore and we're seeing the planet for the first time really in live action. And we don't know what we're going to get. Like Din doesn't know if he can get to the surface. That's why he's got R5 to help navigate, to also take air samples to see if he's allowed to breathe down there or if he's able to. There's a lot of stuff going on. And Bo-Katan in the previous episode basically says, don't go there. That is a wasteland. It is messed up. Seeing it for the first time after he breaks through the clouds, a little bit of a flashback to Dagobah, by the way, at Empire Strikes Back. But we get through and we're fine. We can fly, but we see the planet. And we didn't have a Death Star at this point. If there was a Death Star, Mandalore wouldn't exist. So instead, the Empire, for the Great Purge, the Night of the Thousand Tears they reference, they just bombed and fired the heck out of it with TIE fighters. And it was so much so that basically the surface of the planet is crystallized, as we talked about last week, and how I thought that would be cool if Grogu eventually has a lightsaber that includes that crystal. But this is really sobering, man. This is sad to see that this planet was destroyed. There's really there's no humans that we see on there. We find other living creatures, but what a way to really show the wake and destruction of the Empire at this point.
For sure. It's cool to see Pedro Pascal in an apocalyptic world. Something I haven't seen before.
Never seen it. I hope we get it one day. In addition to this, we get some interesting visuals in this episode. Some different creatures that are disconcerting, to say the least. So Alamites they're kind of the first creatures that they run into on the planet.
These weird Yeti people.
Yeah, Yeti is a great word for it. Just bizarre. Did they exist prior? Like, were they like mutations? I don't know. There's some sinister stuff going on here just by the way of what happens to the planet. They're later in the episode, the creature that captures Din for like a second.
Grievous. Tell me.
I was like, is it?
Okay, at least we're on the same page. I thought about it too. I'm like, how did Grievous die? No, there's no way. There's no way. But like, is there a way?
People come back in Star Wars all the time. I'm like, wouldn't it be crazy
Sarlacc pits don't mean nothing.
They don't mean anything. What if Palpatine was like, go to Utapau, pick up his body, let's see what we can do? That was very much Grievous. That's not a natural creature right there.
Oh no.
Like, so that had to stem from somewhere. Very, very
Yeah,
interesting.
you've
very
got
creepy
that
with the eye, too.
the organic eyeball, and you have it like, it separates from that body and goes into the arachnid thing, the almost like Halo scarab looking thing.
Unsettling.
Yeah, it's unsettling.
Like,
I think at this point, Din was already captured, and Grogu went back to get Bo-Katan to help out. One of my favorite things about this episode is seeing how much better Bo-Katan is with the Darksaber. So she just handles it so well, because Din tried to use it when those creatures we talked about, those Yeti weirdos, popped out, and he loses his blaster, so he pulls out the Darksaber, and he still has no bearing on how to use that thing. But when Bo-Katan comes to his rescue, she picks it up off the ground, and she is just wielding that thing like a Jedi, man.
Honestly, that was an awesome portrayal there because, hey, she's got experience with it. She had it for a number of years. She was the ruler of Mandalore. She loses it in the Purged, in the Chaos. Moff Gideon ends up taking it. And then, of course, the Mando eventually gets his hands on it. So with how the Mando handles that in the middle of the book of Boba Fett, by the way, he's not polished with it. I think about the sequel trilogy. He looks like Rey and Kylo Ren with it. Like, this
even
is a
worse.
heavy thing.
Even worse, yeah.
Right?
It's a burden. Like, he has no idea what to do with this thing.
And I love that you kind of see the weight of it, because that's the point of a lightsaber, and the Darksaber is not far off from that. These are not easy to just fling around like chopsticks. So he does that, but you're right, John. She picks it up. She's got experience. She looks like a young Obi-Wan Kenobi with that. She's just flailing it around like there's no tomorrow. She's precise, all of it.
Her brother-in-law,
more of it.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, some might say.
That's what I was going to lead into. Nice. You picked up what I put down there. I love that theory. That's so much fun. First of all, I got to say too, the Darksaber looks so good on live action.
It's awesome. It's so cool.
I was so worried that they would never nail that dynamic. We get it towards the end of season 1, the very end of season 1 with Mando, and it is beautiful. They got it right. It could have been a thing.
Yeah, it's good.
We go through a little bit more. Din finally gets into the water there, so he's essentially able to almost baptize himself in a way to clear his or cleanse his sins. Another unsettling thing, he goes to the bottom of the body of water there. He gets sucked down.
Dude, without Bo-Katan, he's dead twice in this episode. He's useless.
Seriously. How many times has Mando almost died in this series now?
A lot. Yeah, whether it be Grogu or whoever saves him, like Cara Dune, I'm sure saved him in season 1 at some point. Like, he was dead twice in this episode if it wasn't for Bo-Katan.
I love some of the visuals, by the way, to take a step back, like how they have to like jetpack down a few levels.
Yeah.
I love how Grogu kind of just floats with him.
That was my thought. I'm like, how's Grogu gonna get down? Oh, his little carriage can do it. That's cool.
Exactly. All of that's really good. I love that he kind of says to Grogu that he's got to go find Bo-Katan, and with the help of R5 does that. And I really love Katie Sackhoff's performance in what we've gotten in these 2 episodes so far, and she's going to clearly be a prominent character, it would appear, for this season. But she's got this mix of resigned, I've given up kind of nature. But in this episode, she kicks into action. She has to do what she has to do. How do you say no to Baby Yoda? My gosh. So they go back. She saves him, like you said, twice. And as she goes, that's a really cool looking sequence through the water there. As they float up, we see what we believe is the Mythosaur, which is kind of the Mandalorian lore, if you will. This is that giant creature in the lake, and it's what you see as the insignia for the Mandalorians. And that was the lore behind that is basically the first Mandalorian, he tamed a Mythosaur and basically was able to ride it. This is a giant dragon-like creature. What a tease that is. I hope we get to see this creature in full force next episode.
Dude.
What happens? Do they have to take it down?
Does Mando tame it? Does Mando become the next? Ooh.
Right? Like, so
That's some
in
Jon
the
Snow
middle of
stuff
all
right
of
there.
that, there's a lot of discussion on what happened with Mandalore and the different houses, so to speak, if we could talk Game of Thrones. But
Yeah,
really,
you're just talking about the plot of Game of Thrones, Joe. You're gonna like the show.
no, I refuse. There's a lot of history there, almost to a fault, in them repeating themselves here on what actually happened. But the idea seems to be planted that they've got to unite to pull back the Mandalorians together, regardless of their creed or what they believe, which is a nice sentiment. And John, like, who do you see being the one to unite them? Is this Bo-Katan's duty? We've seen a few times already the faith of the different Mandalorians change. So Mando, Din Djarin, he's of the
Night
house.
Watch.
So
Not the Night
they
Watch.
can't take
That's from Game of Thrones. You got me on Game of Thrones now. What is it? Something Watch. No.
Yes.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
It's not Night Watch.
No, Night Watch is from Game of Thrones.
It's not Death Watch either. He's
Is it
different.
not Death Watch?
He's one of them. There's like 3 divisions. I'll have to pull this up. But like, he can't take his mask off. Like, this, they're the most like religious, so to speak, of it.
No, it is Death Watch. Isn't it?
I don't think he's a part of it. I think she was a part of Death Watch. I could be wrong.
No, I think Death Watch is the crazy spin-off that these people are with the armor and stuff like that. I'm almost positive it's Death Watch.
So with that being said, like, you've seen him already question a few things, even though he's still trying to go into these waters. Bo-Katan, like, she will not take that Darksaber back by gift. She's got to defeat him, right, to kind of be the ruler of Mandalore, to unite the people. But there's already seeds that she's saying, you know, what are we doing here? We just got to be on the same page. So if you had a guess, Joe, like, who ends up uniting if we go down that path? Is it Bo-Katan or is it Din?
I would think it's Din. I would think Din's gotten the proper exposure. He's seen what this Death Watch cult has turned into with the armorer and the way this is the way. He's lived that path, but then he's also seen the way of the Jedi at this point. He's seen the way of the older Mandalorians who aren't so strict to this I keep saying Night Watch, Death Watch code. I think he's got all the. I mean, he's also the main character of our show, so it makes a lot of sense. But I think they're giving him the proper context to maybe be the one to bring everybody together.
I feel like in theory she makes sense as a leader because she was one, but I'm like, I don't think Din wants to do that. I think he wants to just kind of lay low and go be with Grogu.
I think he'll be the reluctant leader. I think he will reluctantly fall into this. Like, I'm the one to do this, and like, yes, I don't want to be here, but like, I'm the one to do it.
I could see it. I think that's where we're headed for the rest of this season. I think it's all going to be about Mandalorians in terms of uniting those different houses, and it's going to be fun to watch. I hope we get some more cameos, of course, throughout the rest of the season. Some tie-ins to Ahsoka, maybe.
I would love to set up Ahsoka a little more. Maybe we get our Thrawn eventually. Maybe we get something. Even just a scene with Ahsoka is enough for me. But like, to fully set that up, give me Thrawn. Ooh.
I am stupid excited for Ahsoka. I cannot even tell you the series when that drops later this year. There's just so much context that I'm looking for. We know Hayden Christensen's a part of it. Oh my goodness.
Ezra Bridger is cast.
Sabine Wren, like, go watch Rebels, folks. Go watch Star Wars Rebels if you haven't watched any Star Wars animation. That's the one to start with. I think it's better than Clone Wars. There's a lot of really, really important stuff that happens and a little bit less fluff than the Clone Wars episodes.
Okay, so I'll finish it.
Do it, John. Oh my gosh. There's so much Star Wars lore in this canon stems from that. And it's mind-blowing. It's so good. It's so good. Every time I go to put on Star Wars, Daisy wants to watch Clone Wars because she loves Ahsoka. So I have to just tell her, listen, if you get to the end of season 1, Ahsoka is in Rebels. We'll get there. That's all I had on this episode for The Mandalorian, John. Any other wrapping thoughts?
No, that's it for me, man. That's it for me.
Good stuff. Well, I can't wait for next Wednesday. This was an early one. I was up at 5:45
Oh
because that's when
man,
my family decided to get up. So I was like, all right, we're watching The Mandalorian together.
nice.
So
I'm working from home this week, so I was able to watch it on my lunch at my actual, my TV setup, which was nice. I didn't have to get up early.
that's good. That's good. I'm committed though. Each and every Wednesday, I'm going to do this. So
I'll do
uh,
it if I'm in office. I'll be up for sure. I don't want to watch it like on my iPad at lunch or whatever. I want to watch it on the TV.
totally makes sense. Uh, we're going to wrap up this episode of The Mandalorian here. Stick around if you are live on twitch.tv/The Geekiverse. We're going to be talking Busy Sticks, which is our all video game podcast. If you like TV shows and Pedro Pascal specifically, we just had our 8th episode on HBO's The Last of Us. We had Tim Talbot from The Geekiverse join us for that one to unpack everything from the season so far. And we've got 1 week to go with that. John, I'm proposing on air because we've got Mando and we've also got Last of Us here overlapping for 3 weeks in total by the time this is done. We're going to have some overlap with Ted Lasso.
We're going to have
soon.
Ted Lasso overlap. I'm always down to talk Ted Lasso. It's not normally the stuff we talk about, but I'm so into just chat Ted Lasso with you, dude.
I'm ridiculously excited. Those might be some of our longest episodes, even though that is basically like a heartfelt comedy. That's not typical Geekiverse content, but I'm so excited about that. March 15th, we get the first episode of season 3 of Ted Lasso. One of my favorite shows of all time. What a time for me. I've got Mandalorian, which is one of my favorite bits of Star Wars content. I've got Ted Lasso. I've got The Last of Us, one of my favorite video games ever in TV form now. Just a good time to be alive, man. Ted Lasso, by the way, our show, I know we're going with the titles that make sense from a searchability standpoint, but if we were to name that something different, it would have to be Biscuits with the Boss.
I figured that's where you were going with that. Yeah, that makes sense.
It would have to be. And then I make you biscuits weekly and I give them to you so we can eat them on air.
Now I'm in.
There you go. Boom. Done. Love it. All right. For John, I'm Josiah. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Mandalorian Wrap Up. We'll catch you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your week.